Yeah, we're rolling.
Cool. Yo, what are you saying? And judging by my title, you probably already know who our next guest is. One of the best DJs to come out of the 80s, a massive LGBTQ community activist, and half of Fat Moss. Can you please give a warm welcome to DJ Fat Tony?
Thanks. I always forget about the 80s.
Yeah. Anything I missed out there?
Huh?
Anything I missed out?
No. Well, probably like 25 years, but that's fine.
Yeah.
How are you? You good?
I'm very good. Thank you so much for coming on to
You're
the
welcome.
show. And I really want to start off so when you first started the clubbing industry and kind of your origin and kind of if you want to take us on that journey really.
I've always been, ever since the age of 14, I've always been involved in some kind of nightclub antic, whether it be working in the door or just going to clubs. I started at a really young age, and then I kind of fell into DJing at around about the age of 16, 17. And it was never something I wanted to do. My passion for music has always been there, but I never really thought, oh, I'm going to be a DJ. I want to be a DJ. So it was something that just come quite organically, and that's kind of it. And you could jump forward 30 years.
Yeah, because I know you first started DJing when you were 16, if I believe.
Yeah.
Doing my research, but there's a massive gap that I've been looking for. How did you go from DJing to a club in London to going to New York? What is
London?
How do you fluke that one? That's amazing.
Because London, it was really different then, and we didn't have social media. Nightclubs, there was only one area in London, which was the West End, and everybody who went to those clubs in the West End knew each other because it was a very small nucleus of people. It's not like London now or any other area where it's spread out, where you have Shoreditch or you have Peckham and you have all these different areas that people can go clubbing in. Back then it was one area, so everyone knew each other. So it was a very close and creative time, and kind of...
Would you say it's better? Was it better back then?
Better's not the right word, because life's about changing, and things. It was different. It was different. It was better for a lot of reasons, that we didn't have social media and we didn't have distractions. Music was a platform. Clubbing was our platform. So we kind of made the best of what we had, and so for me to go from DJing one weekend in London and then 2 weeks later having my own club on a Tuesday and a Saturday in central London, and then a month later being a resident at the Palladium in New York was quite organic, because
amazing.
Those people worked, at that point, anything from London was really big news in New York. So it was inevitable that was going to happen in a way.
Why do you think was that? Why was the attraction from London to go to New York? Was it the music or?
Yeah, of course. London at that point was a really creative time. We just come through punk. We just got through New Romantic, and the house dance scene had just started in London, and in New York they had all these major super clubs that kind of had to pack themselves out each week. So London, it was like that whole Britpop thing had just burst. So people were really intrigued by London. They were really intrigued by what was going on the street here, especially fashion-wise. So, taking DJs from London to New York was kind of the big thing at the time.
Was it the circle you were in? Who were those people that were or was it just kind of, were you the main attraction that was?
No, the circle. I mean, look, my group of friends all went on to become pop stars, editors of magazines, stylists. They kind of a lot of them set the ground rules for fashion today. So they kind of moved on to that. So, a lot of them at that point in time were all at fashion colleges, or they were the creatives, the creative backbone of London at that point in time. So, I was very fortunate to be in that circle.
Okay. And could you name some those kind of clubs that were you working back in the day?
There was a club called the Wag Club in Wardour Street, which was the nucleus of London really at that point. Everyone wanted to be at the Wag Club. There was a club on Wednesday nights called Café de Paris, which was the place to be seen. Anyone and everyone. The Limelight, which was in Shaftesbury Avenue, which was a kind of notorious, it was an old church. It was, these places were kind of the structure of modern day clubbing. Clubs like Trade were the first 24-hour nightclubs in London.
24 hours? No way.
Yeah, at Turnmills. And,
That's awesome.
That kind of went on to become a legendary venue. So, it was all a natural progression. Clubbing in that way really, really was an experience unlike it is today.
Oh, brilliant. I love that. So, but you didn't start off with DJing. You were if I'm not mistaken, you were a bouncer first. And
No,
then,
I was never a bouncer.
no? Okay,
I
that's
worked,
sorry. I was misinformed.
I worked on the door of a club.
On the door. Okay,
I
you
was
worked on
the
the
door
door.
person.
You were a door
I
person.
said who could come in and who couldn't.
So like, is it a guest list? Would I say? Or
No, yeah, kind of like the guest list, but more of a picker.
picker?
So I kind of was.
So how do you
working
pick
at-
people? We like, oh, you're hot, you're not. Like,
Yeah,
oh,
no, you don't look right.
yeah, is that basically what it is?
Yeah, literally, yeah, turning people away. But you know, that was my job, and I talked my way into that job. And then when I was doing the door, 1 week I would, every week actually, I would complain about the music for no reason at all, just for the sake of doing it.
Even if it's like good music, you're like, oh no.
Yeah, no, it's
terrible.
You know, I didn't like the other. I didn't like the DJ. This guy called Ian Dewhurst, who was actually a master of what he did. But you know, at the time, I completely went against him, and I was like, oh. And then that was how it works. You know, they said, oh, if you can do better, why don't you do it next week? And I was like, fine, I will. Yeah. And I brought I trotted with a little bag of records, and that was it.
Like
From that
what
moment.
records do you remember? Or
It was like there was a couple. There was a Chaka Khan in there. There was a Natalie Cole. There was you know, quite a few things. But
I'm assuming these are all vinyl, right?
yeah, of course it was vinyl.
Yeah, vinyl. Yeah, it's like yeah.
That was the only
That was
format.
that was only format. Yeah, just obviously like that probably will last forever. I think vinyl. But I just touch on that. What do you prefer to mix with vinyl? Would you like?
No, vinyl for me was a
sound
thing
better?
of the past. No, it doesn't sound better.
Apparently
People
some
have this
people- yeah, a lot of people
preconception
do say that.
that vinyl sounds better than
Yeah.
than MP3.
Like-
Of course it doesn't. Of course it doesn't. It crackles, it skips, it jumps. You have a needle. You know, if the needles are in any way damaged, the sound quality is damaged. You know, people who never DJ'd on vinyl will always tell you vinyl sounds better.
Yeah.
Because they were never there. They weren't there. They weren't a part of that. They didn't have to carry those massive cases around with them. For me today, I carry MP3 sticks, and
USB
that's
stick,
it. Yeah, you know, and that's it. And you know, it's a different art form. But to learn to DJ on vinyl, which I'm very blessed that I did, and kind of once you've mastered vinyl, you've mastered it all really.
Yeah. Just quick question. Like, I'm a massive music fan. What's like one vinyl track you'd always have in your locker? Like, right, I'm gonna bring it out. Like during the '80s period.
Oh, there was just so many of them.
That's
You know,
when like
just
when
when-
music. I think music.
No, that question is kind of like I
Is
didn't
it?
play in one
Yeah,
club.
that's true. Yeah, that's.
I never played in one club. I played in so many different clubs. So,
Oh, so
you
you're
know,
doing-
my job as a DJ isn't to play that record.
Yeah.
My job as a DJ is to read the crowd, to get the energy off the crowd, and then take it to another level. That's my job. Where people go wrong when they think about being DJs, they have their laptop, they sit at home and they put their records in the order.
Yeah.
I'm going to play this tonight. I'm going to play that
Yeah.
tonight. Yeah, it's great to have those ideas, but when you get to the club and you read that energy, you can go off on a totally different tangent. You know, DJing is an art form. It's to learn to read. If you can read a crowd, you can DJ. If you got a job warming up at the beginning of the night, which is probably one of the hardest jobs to do, to warm up a crowd properly.
Yeah.
It's not about playing every banger before the other DJ comes on.
Yeah.
It's about building that crowd up slowly and getting them to a point where the next DJ can take over and take them to a higher
Like
point.
a journey, basically. Would you say?
Totally. It's not about, okay, I'm on first, so I'm going to play all the old hits and more. Because that you're not warming up. What you're doing is destroying the night for the other DJs. A warm-up DJ, you know. So it's, for me, I think that I always, every now and then I like to be a warm-up DJ.
Yeah.
Leaving at my own events or whatever. Because it's a skill, it's an art form. It really is. And DJing today, you know, if your laptop and you think that that's DJing, then you're very much mistaken.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, just touching back about earlier, like, what would you say is the biggest difference from like clubbing in the '80s, like in a gay club, and then clubbing like now in like places like Heaven, which I've been to before, and it is a very
Heaven's over. Heaven isn't Heaven anymore. When I went to Heaven,
I went
it was
last
like the
year.
biggest gay club in Europe, but it was also a place. It meant so much more because it was against those times. We had Thatcherism. We had all these odds. Being gay in London at that point in time wasn't like it is today, where you know it's kind of semi-acceptable.
I think it's fully acceptable
It's
now.
not,
Do you think?
not at all. As a
But
gay man,
to be fair, I can't really
as a gay
comment on
man,
that.
we've got such a long way to go. Seriously, you know, if two guys are holding hands walking down the road in Dalston, they get attacked.
That's disgusting.
If people walking around Brixton, walking around Battersea, walking around anywhere, holding hands, they still get attacked.
That's disgusting.
You know, because on paper it looks really good, but it's not in real life. People are still really bigoted, and people are still, especially now as we're moving into a Brexit new life.
Yeah.
Things are going to get a lot worse for the LGBTQI plus. You know, trans people have it really bad. They're not accepted.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
Everybody within our own community are probably one of the worst for it, because, you know, most gay men hate lesbians and blah, 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 blah. You know, that's how it goes on. I mean, not most gay men.
I didn't know that. Like,
some gay men. You know, you know, there's so much bigotry and hatred because we live in a world of social media. So all it takes is someone to spurt the hatred on social media and other people to jump on it. And that builds up momentum. And then before you know it, you've got this full-on war going on.
Like, would you say it was, like, clubs in the 80s was, like, not as good as they are now? Or would you say it's just different? Or, like,
totally different.
Totally
Listen,
different.
you can't, you know...
I'm trying to compare, sorry.
No, but there's no reason you can't compare, because what people always do is, oh, I don't go out anymore, it's not the same. Thank God it's not the same. Thank God there's not the same 10 records being played.
People who say that, yeah.
How boring would life be?
Yeah.
You know, if you don't evolve with your industry and you don't evolve with your art form, you get left behind. And clubs in the 80s were a magical place. Clubs today are a magical place when they're allowed to be reopened. But you know what? It's about how you make it and how you perceive it. People that say, oh, I don't go out anymore because it's not the same. No, you don't go out anymore because you're boring. That's why. And you put yourself in that state. So therefore, you slag off and you hate other people enjoying themselves. People think, oh, you know, I can't. You know, they don't. That's not clubbing. No, you don't understand, because you're not in the moment. You're out of the moment. So you can't really. You know, your chapter served a purpose, but the next chapter and the next chapter and the chapter we're on now are the most interesting.
Yeah, I love that you said that. It's brilliant. But so, like, would you say, like, being a DJ, like, now or when you were trying to become a DJ, was it harder or easier? What would you say? Like,
it's both. I mean, like, you know, back then it was easier in the sense of it was much smaller. Today, it's easy. The amount of millions of DJs that I know and people that call themselves DJs because they played once somewhere or they play in a bar in so and so. There's different levels of DJing. You know, I do this as a profession.
Yeah.
This isn't my hobby. I don't have a day job. I have a night job, and that's DJing.
Yeah.
That is my life form. That's what I do. That's my purpose, really, is to play music and make people dance and make people have a good time. So, and I find that really easy because I have a passion and I love it.
yeah, I like that.
But a lot of other people will find it hard to get into the game because there's so many other people wanting to be in that game. So in order for it to work, like for me, you have to either be at the top of your game and plateau at that. It's always about change. It's always about moving forward. You can't be stuck on your laurels because someone else will come along and take that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but I done some research on you, obviously, but you didn't always set out to be a DJ. You kind of just, like you said, it's your passion, so you just kind of, it felt right to you, right? And then
music's always been it. I grew up with music, and it's in my life, it's in my family, and you know, lots of music's always been there. And today, for me, you know, music more so today than ever before, because it's a release. It's escapism. You know, and I never wanted to be a DJ. I never had life goals. I never had, okay, I'm going to be this next year, or I want to be that. I kind of was very much living in the moment, because all it was really, for me at the beginning, it was about partying.
Yeah.
And then, obviously, when you find a career that you can party with...
Win-win.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. You know, that's it.
Yeah.
Made for life.
I'm very happy for you. But like, little cheeky question: if you weren't a DJ, what do you think you'd be doing right now?
If I wasn't a DJ, I don't know, because I've been a DJ so long. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's kind of like, you know, it's like saying, oh, for me, that question is like being, if you weren't a man, what would you be? Because I am a DJ, and that's what I do. You know,
in and out.
I don't, you know, I'm very strong about recovery. I'm very strong within the recovery field. I like to help people. I think that addiction, I'm kind of, you know, become a semi-specialist on addiction. So that it becomes, they go hand in hand for me today. So the majority of my time I'm talking about recovery and I'm talking about addiction. But the only reason I can talk about that is because of the life that I've had through DJing. So they kind of go hand in hand in a lot of respects.
But yeah, but just speaking of addiction, like, how was it like from like starting doing drugs and like ending it? How was that journey for you? Because I know
it was hell. starting off drugs, partying was great. Drug use and alcohol
And
use
DJing, that environment though, it comes hand in hand. Do you say? Or?
Well, it does come in hand, but what we forget is we get lost along the way. We start off with the point of it all is to go out and dance and to have a good time, and then drugs prolong that good time, and before we know it, we get swept away with drugs, and they become the primary purpose, and the music can become secondary.
Oh, so you were going out just for the drugs, would you say? And
Well,
music
no,
was...
I mean, I'm just talking about people in
general.
When people first go to a club, it's the most exciting thing in the world.
Yeah.
And then, someone will offer them some drugs, and before you know it, that they become the most exciting thing. The music becomes secondary, drugs take over. And, for me, it was exactly the same thing. And then towards the end, there's a fine line between drug use and drug abuse. Yeah. And when you start to abuse anything, it becomes wrong. And that's when it becomes very dark, and it gets very, very lonely. And it's, you could be at the top of your game, but you could be in the most loneliest position in the world because you're having a relationship with drugs and you're not having a relationship with anyone else.
Yeah. So, hope I'm not stepping on my bounds, but were you enjoying it at some point, like the drug use?
Of course I was.
Yeah, of course. And
I wouldn't have done it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course.
If I'd taken drugs and they were I had the worst experience in the world. Yeah. I wouldn't have carried it on. I had the best experiences. Doing drugs, as I say, was an amazing time. But I'm an addict, so whatever I do, I will always take it to the extremes.
Next level.
Yeah, always to the extremes, and then it becomes very painful.
Because I did watch, I think it was DJ Maggie, like the first line of Cocaine of London was with Freddie Mercury.
Yes.
One would assume that cocaine must have been tremendous, but I don't really.
Not really. I hated it. I hate the feeling it gave me that night.
So
I got really paranoid and stuff.
Obviously, you were pressured into it, but that's fucking like.
No, I wasn't really pressured into it. I was at a party and everyone else was doing it, and I kind of just thought they were like, "Oh, do you want to do it?" And I was like, "No." And then I just thought, "Oh, you know what? Everyone else is doing it, like peer pressure," and so I did it. No one forced me to do it.
Yeah.
It was like.
Of course.
For me, it was like oh, I'm not really sure if I want to do that
while I'm here.
And then I did it, and then I didn't do it again for a good year and a half after that, because the experience that I had on it, I didn't enjoy. It made me feel paranoid. It made me feel prang. Okay. It wasn't a great experience.
Yeah.
So kind of that was my first foot in the door with that drug, and then of course as my drinking progressed and the more and more drunk I got, people would say to me, "Do a line of coke. It will wake you up. It will level you out." So that was kind of like, okay, so I can suddenly do cocaine. It will extend the amount of time that I can drink.
Yeah.
And that was it. Before I know it, I had a problem.
No ways. But was it like a quick problem, or was I'm guessing it was over years, right?
I was, it didn't happen overnight. I mean, look, the partying, the job, the partying.
Yeah.
I went out every night of the week. There wasn't a night.
It's impossible to maintain it. It must be so hard.
I never went out. I never for years and years and years. I was out every night of the week.
Every night,
I didn't
7 days.
Yeah, a long time.
Fair play.
And because for me, my life was about partying, and I was getting paid to be in places. That was the way that life was. I think I probably stayed in on a Sunday sometimes.
Yeah.
And that was only because I was so tired. I literally was out every night of the week from Monday to Saturday. And
you were getting paid to do it as well because you were DJ.
Yeah, of course I was, and I was I was earning good money, and the more as my profession rose and my career went up, so did my drug addiction. It went up with it. I didn't see it as an addiction at first. I always thought it was what I did.
Yeah, I saw £1 million of drugs.
Yeah.
I don't know what your drug of choice was back then, but
I spent over £1 million on drugs. Yeah, I did.
I would love for you to.
It's not a boast.
No, it's not a boast. It's a wake up call.
In the Mix Mags film, it was not a boast. What it was it's a story of redemption, and the whole thing was explaining how much I spent. I lost houses. I lost record deals. I lost so many things due to that drug because I didn't have a stop button, and money. As fast as I earned money, the faster I spent it, because it got to the stage in my addiction where if I had no money, I couldn't use, and that was when I slept, and then I knew that the next day I would be able to get up and earn more money from DJing somewhere around the world, and I would fly to these places in comatose states.
You just get it,
get it as soon as I arrived.
Wow.
It was a part of on my rider as such.
What would you say that's probably the most extravagant or best place you've been and scored or? But I think your beef is probably the biggest one. That's full of it.
No. I mean,
is there worse places than Ibiza?
Listen, Beef is not that bad anymore. Do you get what I mean? It wasn't even bad.
I went
back
2 years
in the
ago
day.
and it was all right. I don't really
It's
know.
where you go and who you go with and what.
Oh,
so,
yeah, that's true, yeah.
You know, you can. I could score in anywhere. I had like a
Sixth
radar
sense.
for it. Yeah, of course. I would sit on walls like waiting, and I would see someone. All right, he definitely takes coke, and I would always be right. You know, because it's like a pheromone you put out. You know, so for me, scoring was never a problem. It wasn't always the drug of my choice, but I
Just
always
whatever you
managed
could
to
get.
get high.
Yeah, whatever, like, yeah, but what do you think was the best drug you done, like a set? Like, what was like, cool, I've got a big set coming up. What was your drug of choice?
It would always be cocaine, but
Yeah.
that would be the false sense of
Everyone in London loves
realism.
it.
I used to think, okay, but the more coke I took, the better I played, the better I was in a position, you know. But it was a false sense of reality, you know. The more coke I took and the more drugs I took, the more out of it I was. And the more out of it I was, the more less focused at my game I was. I mean, you know, I didn't care. I didn't
You
care.
were just mixing. Was this like vinyl you were mixing and you
Yeah,
were still able to do
I
it?
used
Like,
to throw it on.
yeah, you must, like, how are you getting the pin on? That's what I was like, I've not really done it, but I've seen people, like, it's quite hard, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you just obviously
You know,
cooked out.
because it was second nature. Playing music is second nature. I did it should be first nature, but first nature was taking drugs. Then second nature was okay. You know, I could DJ with my eyes closed, but you know what? There were times where I didn't bother mixing. I would just throw the record on because that's who I'd become. People came to see the car crash. People came to see what state I was in, and that's how it was.
Like, because you are quite a big, like, good character and, like, very, very cool to, like, hang out with. Is that why, or do you think that people just...
I was a force of nature. You know, it was like.
Like, you're larger, like, kind of larger than life, would you say?
Yeah, well, no. So I'm one of these people that just if I'm always in. I was always in people's faces.
Yeah.
I was always the loudest, always the brashest, always the funniest. You know, so I thought, and I was always the one that wanted the party to go on forever. So it became a bit of a notorious thing, and kind of become a lifestyle more than a choice. Yeah.
Okay, cool. What was like the best like gig you've done? Would you say like?
I always say, whenever I get asked this
like,
question,
yeah.
I always say it hasn't happened yet.
Hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, there's been so many
Yeah, you must have a
moments
massive
in my
resume.
life where I think, oh my God, how am I here? Like DJing in Donatella Versace's living room, like,
Yeah.
and like.
Was that in America or was that?
No, in Milan. Like,
Milan, okay. Of course, yeah.
I've done it about 10 times now. I've gone
Yeah.
over and worked for her. But like,
What's she
the
like as a person?
She's amazing.
Yeah.
But the very first time I did it, I was like, just like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm in Gianni Versace's house, which is
Yeah.
now Donatella's.
Yeah.
It was just like surreal. You know, there's loads of I've had to pinch myself moments within my career, and they still happen. You know, I'm very fortunate that I don't live in the past and I live today. So you know, there's always these moments that I just think, wow, how the hell did this happen?
Like you said, it's natural. Like
It's just, you know, it's I truly believe that what you put out in the world, you get back. And I went through life in that dark time of putting out really negative energy. Today I try and put out really positive energy in the sense of what I do and who I am and what I stand for. And I stand for like different beliefs than I had back then. You know, and you know, the answer to your what was the best drug you ever took question would be music. Music by far is
Music.
the biggest and best drug I've ever taken. It's taken me to such highs that no drug could ever take me.
yeah,
You know, and there's no lows with music.
yeah.
You know, you don't suddenly have to come back down and think, oh my God, because you know that's there eternally. You can always play it. You know, and yet whenever you're in a really dark place, music can lift you from that. No drug can do that.
Yeah.
You think they can. You think, oh, I'm having a really bad day. I need a drink. No, you don't. All you need to really do is listen to a really good song. Yeah.
So what was that like song when you're feeling a bit down that gets you up? Or
There's loads of like go-to songs that I love, because you know that's the bit of music. You know, I could be feeling really lonely or really down, and it could be a friend's anniversary of their death, or a parent, and there's certain tracks that you put on, and that person suddenly in the room with you, because that's the magic of
I
music.
know what you mean. Like it's like like there's some songs that I've been with someone and that reminds me of them.
Of course, and you know, they're no longer with us, but those memories are. And like when people die, that part of them stays with you, And when you play that music, it will bring that to the surface. And those
Touches your heart, doesn't it?
Of
Really?
course
Like,
it does.
yeah,
And that's the beauty of music. That's the power of music.
Yeah.
All music.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Yeah. Anyway, so I know you're a massive activist in the LGBTQ community. What would you say are better like places you did, like not places or like events that you DJs at? Like, would you say that the boring standard straight pies or like the more fabulous gay pies where it's more fun?
The best parties in the world are mixed pies.
Do you think so? No.
Yeah, 100%. You know, throughout history, they've always been mixed pies.
You'd always rather
It's
DJ
not
mixed.
about who your sexuality. You're not out to because you know, or we're only going here because it's gay. Yeah, I mean, listen, straight clubs, gay clubs, all clubs that are just segregated in that sense. You're putting yourself in a box.
Yeah.
You're straight away in a box. You know, it's about opening it up. It's about, you know, taking those walls down and spreading the love. You know, for me, I mean, I've played in so many incredible places, and I always think that the best places out of all of them are the mixed ones. Totally.
Yeah. So and I've seen you DJ at Pride as well before. What's probably the
best?
I
DJ at Pride. Yeah, I do it every year. We have our own party at Pride.
Do you do London or Brighton or?
I do both. Yeah, I do Brighton Pride. We were due to do it this year for Glitterbox.
Oh yeah.
But that got cancelled. Yeah. So it, you know, Pride's a really big thing. It's, as I say, people think that the LGBTQ plus community is very accepted, but it's not in so many areas. So Pride exists for those reasons. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So for anyone that hasn't been to Pride before, how would you describe it?
Well,
is this kind of
Pride's insane. It's insane. It's a massive street party. It's like a festival. It's a day festival where everybody, families, kids, everyone come out and they enjoy it. The freedom of it. You know, it's not about. It's, you know, of course, there's areas of it that are about politics, but you know, it's one of those days where you can be proud of being who you are. Whether you be gay or you be straight, it's about acceptance of other people. It's not about tolerance. To tolerate someone is the wrong thing. It's about acceptance. It's about accepting, okay, you are who you are, and that's what it is, whether you be gay, straight, whatever. I think that everybody should be proud of who they are.
Yeah.
Can I interrupt the interview and ask you what the two tattoos mean, the arrogant and hypocrite?
Yeah. So... Yeah, of course. So I've got arrogant on this hand because this is the hand. Actually, hypocrite on this hand first of all because this is a hand I always tell people not to do things. I said, don't do this, don't do that when I'm actually doing it myself. And then this is the hand that I always tell people to fuck off with. The arrogant hand. You know, I had them tattooed on there, just on a whim, and it's kind of always become sort of thing. And also we're starting a streetwear brand called Arrogant Hypocrite.
Oh, okay.
Which,
cool.
hence why I didn't have, you know, these were there. I've had these about 12 years now. But, yeah, that's why they're there. It's just who I am.
What was like Prince like, and like I know you were to Michael Jackson as well.
I worked for Michael Jackson. But
what was he like in person? Like them guys, like I feel like
Prince was amazing because Prince was really down to earth. Prince had this energy about him that you were scared to talk to him.
Yeah,
and I think that kind of make, you know, that whole wow, he's a megastar.
Yeah.
But you know, when you got to talk to him, and he you know, I did so many Prince gigs, so many, and that was because I was really real and I was really honest with him, and just like, you know, didn't care. I you know, if it was Prince or if it was Modonna or any of those people, I kind of was by that point.
You just being yourself.
Yeah, and I kind of think that's why I got booked. Well, I mean, obviously from playing good music as well, but I got booked because of the way I was with people.
Yeah.
I never ever brown nosed. I grew up with some of the biggest stars in the world. You know, Boy George was my best friend, and at one point in time, he was the biggest star on the planet, and that never ever fazed me. So growing up as a kid into that environment was never really, oh my God, I shouldn't be here. It was kind of like become who we were.
Smashing. Anyway, like there's something we do on what you're saying. We do pick a pic. So I took a deep dive in some of your pictures that you've had in the past. I got 3 pictures I would love for you to look at, and you can't just explain it, like the situation and what were you doing and your situation. Just keep sliding across. So I found this very fantastic one, if you remember that one. So you just want to look at the scape, like, so this will probably be on Spotify, just so what's happening in that picture.
This was at San Lorenzo restaurant in Soho. It was George Michael's birthday. And That's what was happening in this one.
Do you remember that lovely red wine you were drinking?
It was disgusting.
Was it?
Anyway, yeah, but that's definitely San Lorenzo, 100%. There's my friend Sam McKnight sitting there and Josie Jones. Yeah, that was then. Oh my God.
So that's you and is that Boy George?
Boy George and the guy.
So how did you and Boy George meet? That's why we were like.
I met George in the King's Road.
King's Road.
On a Saturday afternoon, yeah.
It's a Saturday afternoon.
Yeah.
Oh hi, I DJ.
And look, you know, see, even then, I mean, I was a real bad junkie there, and
You know,
I had
was it ecstasy
a sign on my head saying positive about drugs. Do you know what I mean? And stuff on my head. Because for me, drugs, I glorified.
Yeah.
I was a junkie. I glorified taking Class A drugs. That was who I was. And obviously, this one's Fat Moss picture.
Yeah.
This was at. This was Annabelle's. This was Annabelle's nightclub birthday. I think it was their 50th birthday or something like that. And they got me and Kate DJ, and they had Grace Jones singing as well. So that's where that night was. So it was me, Kate, and Grace Jones.
Are you guys,
Yeah.
you and Kate still friends? Or?
Of course,
Yeah.
my best friend in the whole world, yeah.
Yeah.
Of course we're friends. Yeah, always will be. It's like George.
Yeah.
You know, I don't have to see him every day.
Yeah, one of those
I speak
friends,
to him
yeah.
3 times a week, but you know,
I like that.
You know, that's friendship. That's what real friendship's about.
But you guys must have gone on some like probably Kate as well, like some wild parties, like some after parties. You want to tell us?
Of course,
you
there's nothing to really tell. I mean, you know, like any group of friends, you go out, you enjoy it, you go back to someone's house, you have fun, you go home.
Yeah.
Well, they go home, and I always.
Yeah, of course,
they
you
go.
always like.
But you know what? It's like any friendship. That's what we do in friendship. You know, if you go out with your mates on a Saturday night,
Get
you
up
go out
mischief.
clubbing, and then you end up doing what you're doing, and you go home, and then you talk about it all week long. And you're on the phone, you're like, "Oh my God, I can't believe," you know.
Yeah, you did
and
that.
that's what friendship's about. So just because, you know, for me, those people who are my friends, they're my friends because of who they are as a person,
Yeah.
not because of what they do as a career.
Yeah.
I knew them before their
Exactly.
careers.
And now you kind of grew up together, like.
Yeah, totally. And it's kind of, you know, people are like, oh, it must be really different to be around those kind of people. It's no different
yeah.
to be around those kind of people. That's their job. Like, it's my job. You know, I come home, I walk my dog, I hang out with my mates. You know, life is really relatively normal for everyone.
But I was actually like, what's it like being in the spotlight, especially like when you were going through your drug stage, and like now, obviously you're recovered now, it's awesome, and I love it. But like, what was it like that whole journey? Was it stressful being in the spotlight?
Yeah, back then it was because you know, that's why I turned to drugs. I didn't have the skills and I didn't have the tools to deal with that lifestyle.
Yeah.
I come from a council estate in Battersea and suddenly was flying on Concorde every week and doing all of these really mental things, but really riding the moment. But I didn't have the tools to deal with that instant. Because, you know, as I say, I went from DJing one weekend to suddenly a month later being in New York and doing everything and people wanting you and calling your name, wanting you to do all that stuff. So it was a lot to deal with, and the tools that I knew was alcohol and drugs. So they become my crutches to get me through that stuff. And that's kind of why it went so pear-shaped.
So this is a recovery podcast, which I watched episode of Kelly Osbourne. What made you want to do that? Because obviously you probably got a lot of knowledge and a lot of...
Because we went into lockdown and life became really small for a lot of people, and addiction went through the roof, and so did alcoholism and domestic abuse. And what I wanted to do with the recovery was to get that normal people talking about their addiction one-on-one in a conversation and not an interview. So we don't do it's not an interview on the recovery, it's a conversation between two addicts, and we talk about what life was like for us while we took drugs and how life today is better without them.
Yeah.
Because people have this preconception that as soon as you put down drink and drugs, you become really boring.
Yeah.
And
that's
I
not
can
true.
assure you it doesn't. That's when the party starts. The minute you put down, because you're not spending the night wondering what someone's got in their handbag or what someone's got in their pocket. You're in the moment, you're having fun, and you're having a really good time with your friends. And that's the important thing of it. So what we wanted to do with the recovery was to get that message across in a way that was real. And that's why it's been such a success, because people really relate to it.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people don't think that they've got a drink problem. They don't think they've got a drug problem until the drink or drugs run out. And what we wanted to do with the recovery was to show that there is another way. There's a really healthy, fun way to do it. Life doesn't stop the minute you put down the bottle. It starts. And that's why we had so many varied guests. Some talking about depression, some talking about menopause. you know, because trauma comes from so many different avenues.
Yeah.
Whether it be childhood trauma or whether it be trauma from an accident or trauma from losing a loved one. And the way we normally react to trauma is I need a drink. This is the way I am. I need drugs. So because we don't have the tools to deal with it. So what the recovery does, it shows you that there are tools, there is a way.
That's right. Brilliant. And so last thing we do on the show when we're wrapping up, we call it Freak of the Week. So you're quite a famous person, Tony. Do you ever get any weird people messaging you on IG? Asking you, do you want to give us an example of one?
No, I get messages all the time, like really random stuff, like just people. I've got one person at the moment that messages. I mean, I don't block them. I block a lot of people that are rude. The ones that aren't rude, I kind of let them.
Yeah, let them have that.
I let them rant on and on and on. And I've got one person at the moment that's basically reading my nodding and my winking, and when I'm doing DJ sets or in pictures, and think that they're all to her. Yeah. And that I'm letting her know secretively that I've sorted out a situation for her and one of my friends, Boy George, to get married together, and I'm giving her the nod in every time I nod my head. So this has been going on for months.
Just keep it going, yeah.
And I rang George about it. I said, "Oh my God, this girl, she won't stop." And he was like, "We blocked her years ago." And I was like, "Yeah, but now she's that." And he's like, "Well, she's your fan now."
Yeah.
Like, no, she's not.
You.
Like, she thinks that every time I nod my head or I wink in a picture, it's at her.
It's at her, yeah.
So I get but also the good thing about Instagram is people message you and say, "Hey, I've watched your podcast or I read this or done that," and they reach out, and that's the beauty of social media today. The fact that it's not all about negativity. It's not all about people slagging up people off for their weight or for the way they look or their sexuality or their religion. It can also be an avenue for people to say, "Okay, I identify with what you've done and I really need help. Can you help me?"
Yeah, that's brilliant. Just want to say, do you have anything to plug? Do you have any shows coming up or anything?
We've got
some dates that you like.
We've got I've got a thing at Night Towers on the 20th of November, which is with myself and Joe Goddard from Hot Chip. That's a really good thing coming up. We've got our social discoing club.
Yeah.
Once a month, well, 2 or 3 times a month at the moment, which is on. You can find on my Instagram page advertised. Yeah. There's loads of stuff.
And we'll attach it down below definitely, because we'll definitely try and come to one of them.
Yeah, do definitely. Yeah. You're welcome.
Yeah.
It's really good fun.
Yeah.
And we're in really troubled times, and
exactly.
I think it's about staying positive and stop reading into other people's negativity. Just make sure your side of the street's clean, and that's it. That's all you can do.
That's it. Yeah, Tony, thank you so much for coming
welcome,
on.
man.
Like, absolute legend. And
thanks, guys.
Yeah, so awesome. Please like and subscribe, and share.
Thank you. Love out.